They claimed that the video was phony and that Camron would never cross that line. But then the audio came out unedited and raw. And let me tell you something, it destroyed everything she had worked so hard to hide. So what did she say? Nothing major. Just acknowledged that she had been using Jim Jones as a pawn while working behind the scenes with Cam for years. The worst part is that Cam intentionally recorded it. This isn't a case of love and hip-hop drama. It's a courtroom level. Betrayal with burner phones, studio receipts, and a voice memo that could destroy an entire legacy. Jim Jones didn't cry or scream. Instead, he just sat there listening as if he had just witnessed his entire relationship. His brand and his name being set on fire. He was powerless to stop it. So now the question is, was this all a setup from the beginning? Did Camron play the long game? Was Chrissy ever truly loyal, or was she just a well-dressed time bomb waiting to go viral? Hold on tight, because what you're about to hear could be the end of everything they built. A broadcast betrayal is worse than a breakup, and that's exactly what happened between Chrissy Lampkin, Camron, and Jim Jones, in a scandal that has not only rocked Dipset to its core, but is now leaving the internet wondering, was everything a lie? It began like any other messy internet rumor, a few whispers, a dubious direct message leak, and then boom, an audio file surfaces, not just any audio, we're talking private. Time-stamped and uncut video of Chrissy Lampkin allegedly telling Camron not. Jimnet she never stopped thinking about him. But the real kicker is that she says it while drinking wine, laughing and calling Jim a brand rather than a man. Yes, that line alone shut down 3 group chats and made Twitter into a funeral. But let's go back a bit, because insiders close too. Cam's team claimed that this audio leak wasn't an accident or a retaliatory leak from a resentful friend. Rather, it was a cold-blooded release from Camron himself. This because it appears that Cam has finished playing nice. And the tension between Camron and Jim Jones has been simmering since then, under the surface for more than 10 years. The culture envied Dipset's brotherhood, but behind the scenes, business disputes, creative conflicts. And yes, women caused a huge rift between them. Nevertheless, for years, both parties continued to play it cool until Now Music. Now, let's talk about the audio itself. According to sources who have heard the full version, not just the 40-second viral clip, it was recorded in a private studio, apartment where Cam and Chrissy allegedly connected 2 months ago. Chrissy's voice is crystal clear in this clip, with no distortion or edits, saying, "Jim still, he believes that I'm in love with the idea of us. But he doesn't know that I've been gone for a long time. I'm with him in interviews, but with you, when it's real." She then laughs, but Cam doesn't say anything. Then a beat plays in the background, suggesting that this isn't just a scandal, but rather the soundtrack to sabotage. Fans have been suspicious ever since the Camron hotel footage was leaked last year. We call that grainy clip of her walking into a luxurious suite at 2:14 a.m. At the moment, Chrissy said it was her cousin Cam. "I was with Reggie, who was suspiciously sporting a hoodie similar to Cam's. Denied everything, and Jim didn't even reply. But now that the audio is clear, Cam was there. Reggie was a ghost, and the lie was layered. That wasn't enough? Let's examine what else was in the leak." At one point in the recording, Cam asks her, "Do you ever feel guilty?" Chrissy answers without missing a beat, "Not anymore. I gave him everything for 10 years. Now I'm doing me." That doing me apparently involves sneaking behind Jim's back with the one man he trusted the most. Now, according to former VH1 staffers, this wasn't just about sex or retaliation. It was about control, enclosed by Jim's image. One former producer claimed that Chrissy wanted to change her image and stop being the co-star. Guess who gave her that attention? According to sources, Cam had been monitoring Chrissy for months through private flights, burner phones, and secret conversations. One insider claimed that Cam didn't just take her. Rather, he managed her like a CEO flipping a rival brand from the inside. This leads us to Jim Dodge, who was discovered on livestream. Yes, he wasn't forewarned. He wasn't given a courtesy call, and he was mid-interpretation on his new album when his assistant handed him a phone and whispered something in his ear. Jim froze. Then Dipset fans all over the world realized that this wasn't just celebrity drama. It was a real-time breakdown of loyalty, legacy, and love. He didn't flip a table or storm out. Instead, he just shut down and whispered, "That's her." However, it didn't stop there. A few moments later, Mama Jones, Jim's own mother, took to Facebook. Live, her face puffy, her tone angry. Her message: I told my son she wasn't right, but he wanted his fairy tale. Now fairy tales are burning because the internet did what it does. Reddit threads appeared, comparing the leaked audio to Chrissy's previous interviews. One user shared a clip from a 2018 Breakfast Club interview in which Chrissy states, "Cam is like family. It's nothing like that between us." However, the receipts show otherwise. And it's even more shocking that this could have been a strategic brand collapse and transfer. Some people think Chrissy and Cam were planning their own spin-off, secretly recording conversations, gathering clips, and gathering drama in real time to pitch to streaming services. They seem unrealistic, especially when you learn that Cam's lawyer is involved. I just filed a motion to protect the intellectual property related to recordings made between July and October. Yes, he is treating this leak as content rather than evidence. The bad news is that there are 2 more recordings, according to sources. One is from a backstage VH1 shoot in which Chrissy is heard asking Mona Scott, "Can we cut that line about, Jim, it's not true anymore. I'm just playing the role." The second is a voicemail from Chrissy to Cam, in which she allegedly states, "I miss the old days when it was just us. Jim's too busy chasing clout. You still see me?" The last part is now a meme that you can still see. As the world began to react to the leak, Camron himself broke his silence by posting a single sentence to Instagram with no caption, just white text on a black screen. "You shouldn't have played both sides of that post one. I have become the #Warcry of the week." And it can be seen on shirts, TikTok, lip syncs, and even petty tweets from random reality stars. With just a digital microphone, drop, and 4 million likes in 9 hours, there were no hashtags or follow-ups. However, what happened next caught Cam off guard. As an anonymous burner account connected to a former VH1 intern leaked a Dropbox folder containing screenshots, travel receipts, and even a picture of Chrissy and Cam boarding a private flight. The same week that Jim was admitted to the hospital due to exhaustion, Turks and Caicos, the fuse was lit again, because if you were thinking that the audio leak was the climax or that the Instagram Live was the fallout, you were mistaken. What happened next was not only scandalous, but it was also fatal to the brand, the bond, and every lie they believed would be buried forever. The courtroom was packed when Jim Jones entered wearing all black with his mother and lawyer behind him, Mama Jones wrapped in a church coat, holding tissues like a weapon, and Chrissy arrived alone 15 minutes later. The judge didn't waste time addressing the public harm caused by the now viral recordings. Jim's lawyer got up and first asked for a gag order on all parties, citing emotional harassment, brand exploitation, and calculated defamation. Then he handed the judge a printed contract which was actually a signed agreement between Jim and Chrissy. She was dressed like she was going to a funeral, which she may have caused. But the tension reached a whole new level when Camron entered the room with his lawyer holding another folder labeled simply Exhibit C. You don't just break hearts, you breach contracts. The judge read the paperwork carefully, page by page, and then looked directly at Chrissy. "Were you romantically involved with Mr. Giles, Mr. Camron, during the planning of this series?" she asked. Mama Jones gasped loudly, as if a soul were leaving the body, and Jim just looked down, hand clenched on the table, knuckles white. All of this was part of the paperwork for the development of a co-branded documentary series called Love Always Wins. Were you aware that this relationship, if revealed, could damage the credibility of your co-branded content. The judge asked, lips quivering, and another person nodded yes. The judge didn't react, but the room did, as someone in the gallery whispered, "Ah, she cooked herself." Another voice snapped back, "She doesn't even care." And maybe she didn't, because what happened next confirmed it. With all the suspicions the internet had been screaming about for weeks, Cam's lawyer approached the bench with calm words that sent shivers through the entire courtroom. "I'd like to submit one last recording." The judge approved it. The bailiff pulled out a monitor, everyone turned it on, and then a voice said, "I love him, but not the way he needs. Jim wants forever, and I just wanted a moment. Cam gave me that." Yandandi looked uneasy and fidgety, then said, "You know, this isn't going to stay secret, right?" Chrissy sipped something from a solo cup and laughed. "If it leaks, it leaks. I've been hiding for 10 years. When the fire returned to the courtroom, not even the judge moved. The gavel didn't fall. But the damage did, because Jim's team officially filed a countersuit claiming emotional fraud, intentional deception, and brand manipulation with that footage entered into record. It wasn't just personal anymore. It was now financial and federal. But just when things couldn't get any heavier, a court clerk stepped in and whispered something in the judge's ear. He nodded, then said the words that turned scandal into a possible criminal investigation. "This court has received documentation." Finally, Ms. Lampkin asked if the footage is legitimate. Chrissy. Homeland Security's Ms. Lampkin is currently a person of interest in a case involving digital tampering and nonprofit misappropriation, related to footage mentioned in earlier hearings. Mona Scott's assistant was sitting quietly in the back when she dropped a folder on the floor. VH1's lawyer immediately stood up, saying, "Your Honor, we object. This is outside the jurisdiction of this case." The judge shut it down, noting the objection but promising to address it. Chrissy's lawyer appeared shaken. Her eyes dropped to the table, her hands began to shake, and her voice was silent. Cam was watching it all like a man at the movie premiere, so he directed himself. Jim got up, but he walked slowly and deliberately to the center of the courtroom before turning to face Chrissy. The judge allowed it, and Jim said, "Was any of it for me? Or was I just the cover story?" Chrissy didn't respond. The silence that followed was louder than the audio, louder than Cam's smirks, and louder than Mona's denials. The judge called a brief break, but the press was already on fire before Jim even left the courtroom door. During the court break, Camron's team released a teaser trailer on Twitter. The first 30 seconds showed Chrissy in a hotel room wearing a dip-dye hoodie talking on the phone. Jim was on tour. "I've got 2 hours. Are you coming or not?" The voice on the other end of the phone was already downstairs. The screen cut to black and text faded in. "The footage they tried to bury is coming soon back in court." The hashtag began trending within minutes. Chrissy confessed that Cam was the plan and tossed Jim. He deserved better. Tired, he called back the proceedings, asked both legal teams to make closing statements, and then adjourned until the final motions could be reviewed the following week. However, by the time Jim left the courthouse, his team had already removed all of Chrissy's photos from his social media accounts. And Mama Jones refused to speak to the media, instead being seen sobbing quietly in the hallway. Chrissy left through a back exit wearing a black hoodie, large sunglasses, and the silent realization that her truth had become a televised warning. Cam didn't leave right away. He remained in the courtroom. A few hours later, a final leak appeared on the internet. A burner phone text thread from Chrissy to a contact saved as MSY. Mona Scott Young read, "Delete everything." He knew it was over, but nothing was erased. Everything was archived, and now it belongs to the world. The brand crushed the truth, and 30 minutes later, everyone was back in the lobby, talking to his lawyer and drinking coffee. He laughed and said, "I waited for the right ending." Then, as if the devil was on lunch break, The clerk walked in again with a flash drive sealed in an evidence bag marked HSI Homeland Security Investigations. The judge opened it like it was burning through his gloves and plugged it into the computer. But this time, the energy had changed, and no one looked at Chrissy, the judge, the court reporters, or even her own lawyer. She sat there alone, as if the air around her had thinned out, like guilt had finally sunk its claws into the moment Jim Jones was seated. Arms folded, no expression on his face, no anger, heartbreak, or anger. Everyone sat motionless as the courtroom system turned to the room and said, "This contains sealed surveillance audio and metadata files referencing Ms. Lampkin, Ms. Scott Young, and the management of charitable contributions tied to a VH1 affiliated nonprofit registered in 2021. Chrissy's lawyer objected right away, saying, "Your Honor, this is unrelated to the current matter." But the judge shut it down again, saying, "We're not discussing innocence. We're discussing admissibility, and it's admissible." The first file played, and it was Chrissy's voice. Again in a phone call, the background sounds of which matched a trailer, probably backstage at a VH1 event. "I told Mona to redirect that money so Jim wouldn't know we used Jim's lawyer. Stood up again, Your Honor, and requested immediate approval to submit these findings into our existing motion for brand defamation and emotional sabotage." The judge nodded, and VH1's legal representative was visibly sweating. His name was used to promote the gala, and the rest went to handling post-production. Another voice said, "Female nervous Chrissy. That's fraud." Chrissy flatly replied, "No, that's television." The courtroom didn't move because this wasn't just betrayal of the heart. It was possible federal wire fraud. The VH1 lawyer said, "We were unaware of the financial rooting. We had no knowledge of the secondary production logs or unsanctioned footage." The judge said, "We were unaware of the financial rooting. We had no knowledge of the secondary production logs or unsanctioned footage." Ms. Scott Young, the representative, hesitated to comment. Of course she did, because Mona Scott Young had vanished, leaving no emails, no public statements, not even a mysterious Instagram quote. She knew the tidal wave was coming, and she was already halfway to the bunker when the tsunami struck. "I messed up," Chrissy finally said, not to defend herself or to deny anything, but to no one in particular. "I kept telling myself that I could balance the image and show the true feelings, that I could love him in public and heal in private, but I lost both versions of myself." Jim didn't look at her, and once she continued, "Cam was real, so was Jim, and then I just stopped being real with either of them." The judge allowed her to continue. Perhaps out of curiosity or because this was the last page in a script that no one wanted to write, Chrissy concluded, "I don't expect forgiveness from Jim." The judge said, given the strength of the evidence, the conflicting business interests, and the risk of ongoing reputational harm to public entities, this court will allow all motions for damages pending a final hearing. Additionally, this court is referring the nonprofit matter to federal authorities for further investigation. She sat down, and after being silent for nearly a full minute, she said, "I want the truth on record because I'm tired of hiding behind scenes." Additionally, the court is referring the nonprofit matter to federal authorities for further investigation. One sentence she said louder than I could ever imagine. Underneath a clip from Dipset's, it played, and Chrissy left through the back again. This time, there was no entourage, no security, and no Mona. Jim left last, and when his team tried to entice him to a press exit, he shook them off. He entered the crowd through the main door, flashing cameras, and he didn't say a word. By sunset, the internet was on fire once more, and a leaked staff chat from VH1 appeared on Reddit. The screenshots of Mona's final internal message before the scandal hit the courtroom read, "If that footage leaks, we're finished. Jim doesn't know half of what was scripted. Let legal take care of the rest," and the comments went crazy. She used his trauma as a storyboard, and Chrissy didn't lie on TV, she practiced it. Then another video was released anonymously, showing a scene that was cut out of the Netflix trailer that Jim and Chrissy were working on. He asks her, "Are you ready to build a life with me or a season? Why not both?" She asks with a giggle. However, as of right now, there is no season, no life, no future. VH1's press contact went black. Netflix withdrew sponsors and backed off. Production stopped and the series was shelved within a day. Mona's name was also removed from the website. Jim's bio said, "Rebuilding. Don't ask me anything." The intern, whoever handled a camera close to Chrissy Lampkin, began cleaning their LinkedIn by morning. And Dipset's official Instagram unfollowed Chrissy. The only thing Chrissy posted was a black square with no caption or explanation. Just black, and thousands of people flooded the comment section asking, "Was it worth it? You broke the last loyal one. Cam sold a story. You sold your soul." But Cam's announcement of the full release of the footage, which they attempted to bury, didn't even match the trailer for the 3-part series that will premiere next Friday. In an unreleased scene, Jim sits by himself on a rooftop with a glass in his hand and declares, "I've built my whole life trying to protect people who just needed a stage." Chrissy opens the scene. The closing lines. "The real story was never about love, but rather about loyalty and who killed it first," were followed by quiet until the screen faded to dark. Now that everything is public knowledge, there is nothing left to defend, not the brand, not the image, not even the past, just the 3 names of Jim, Chrissy, and Cam, and a legacy that will never be able to move on since the footage is out and will never go away. Confessions, the courtroom collapse, and we must ask ourselves, was it the love story we all believed to be the foundation of the loyalty Dipset claimed to be built on? Or was it all a meticulously crafted illusion stitched together by producers, driven by secrets and sold to us as forever? Because Jim Jones lost more than just his partner. He lost his legacy, and Chrissy entered the courtroom and tore it apart. One quote, one voicemail, one silence at a time, while Camron didn't. Simply leak a tape. He set the entire machine on fire and walked away with the only thing that mattered, the truth. Now, do you think Chrissy ever loved Jim, or was she just using him to build her brand? If you're still with us and still in shock, don't hold back. Share your theories in the comments section. If you want to keep this story going, hit the like button. If you want to see every leaked clip, courtroom twist, and hidden betrayal before the internet forgets about it, hit the subscribe button and ring that bell. This story is far from over, and the next leak could completely change everything. You thought you knew. Knew what?